Hello, let's monitor Juniper RPM Probes without any additional issues. So first let me show you the environment I've created. There are two virtual machines with Junos operating system, and you can replicate this environment if you'd like. I will include everything in the video description. And you can see here that we have few probes already defined. We will focus on ICM probe with target address of Google DNS. And you might be already aware that SolarWinds included support for Juniper RPM probes in the VoIP and Network Quality Manager module. However, it's far from ideal, unfortunately. So you can see here I have added ICMP ping from those two virtual machines. However, it's in unknown status, and when I click on this, there are virtually no statistics. And this is an ongoing issue with SolarWinds. I've talked with technical support about this, and there are some unfortunate issues. I also tried it with another environment, and I received partial up and unknown statuses as well as timeouts of this page. So there are definitely some issues, and to be honest, I can't actually trust this module completely. It is working good for Cisco IPSLA operations, however for RPMs from Juniper not so much. So what I've done is I've created a special template for SAM application module. So you will need to have a license, at least the smallest license of SAM application module to make it work. However, once you do, then you can deploy those templates, and you can see they are working quite good. I have included support for average, jitter, percent loss, received, and sent. So the way how the template is working, it is actually generating SNMP get commands. And the only thing that you need to define here is to go to Edit Application Monitor. And for SNMP versus 2, here in script arguments, you have an IP address, and this is the IP address of the assigned network device. Next, you have public, which is community string. Afterwards, we have owner, and this is the same owner from here. So you have the probe owner, the owner name, and you have ICMP probe, and this is the probe name. So here you see there's a test, and the name of the test ICMP probe. And I also tested with other probes such as TCP, and it is working great. So I believe that you won't have any issues with any kind of probes from Juniper. And this script is actually localhost for execution mode, and that means that the script will be working locally on SolarWinds machine. So that means that the script will connect locally to the network device from which it is assigned to. This template is dedicated for SNMP versus 2, and it requires library net-snmp available on GitHub. I will include the link for the download in the video description. A second template is for SNMP versus 3. It requires a separate version because the commands are a bit different for SNMP get. However, the template is virtually the same. So you can see here that we have the same average, jitter, percent loss, received, and sent. Of course, the chart is dynamic, so you can actually zoom in, zoom out, and see what kind of values were available for you at a particular time. And the values for the script are a bit different, so we can edit the application monitor. And you can see from here that we have a script arguments IP, so this is the same. However, next we have MD5 and other encryption options for SNMP versus 3. Afterwards, it's the same, so we have an owner and ICMP probe. Due to the fact that it is SNMP versus 3, we also need to define credentials for monitoring. So you can see here we have a super user login, and let me show you how it's defined. So we need to go to settings, all settings, and from here we need to go to some settings, and in some settings we have credentials library. And here you see super user, SNMP versus 3, and you can click add new credential, and here you can define it. So you can see that those libraries are defined for applications and not exactly network devices. So it is a bit different. I can't, for example, define MD5 on the credential library. It needs to be defined within the script. So that's one difference. And this template is not able to access credential library from the npm network module. So unfortunately, this is the only way. However, it's working quite good. One limitation that you might find in the SAM templates is that you can only assign one credential for monitoring, meaning if you have two different passwords for authentication and privacy, then it could be a bit of an issue. As you can see here below, we have authorization and privacy secret passwords from the same secure string. So that means that if you have a different password, then unfortunately it will not work. So what you need to do is to, for example, encrypt the second password using the XML and additional functions in PowerShell, and using this file you can inject a second password. I will have a different video for encrypting passwords for SolarWinds, so please subscribe if you're interested. Okay, so let's analyze how exactly it's working. So I can copy paste one of those scripts. First we have parameters that we are saving from the template. Afterwards we are clearing up some previous strings. We are defining the encoding for SNMP tables. Some debugging. And here this is the most important part. So we have defined OIDs for Juniper RPM, and this is directly from the Juniper documentation. Unfortunately, you can't use those with npm network modules, and let me show you why. So here you see we are converting probe name into numbers. This is because the probe name and probe owner is actually converted to numbers and added inside the OID itself. So I can show you the SNMP walk. This is from one of those devices. And let me copy paste one of those OIDs to the SNMP walk. And you can see here, it looks a bit different than the one that we have on the script. So here, if I grab it, it's actually 37 milliseconds is for average response time. And why it looks like that? So let me grab the encoder and the function. So we know from the configuration that the probe name is owner. The probe owner is owner, and the test is ICMP probe. So we have an owner and ICM probe. So here, when we type the first letter from the owner and we hit run, you can see it's 111. And this is the same number that you can see here. So this is 111. We can encode W letter, and it's 119, the same as here. So all of this is the owner name and the test name ICMP probe. So you can't actually use, for example, universal polar from the network module, because those OIDs are dynamic. So depending on the name of the probe and the owner, it will have a different OID address. So unfortunately, you can't use the network module. In fact, you could in theory, however, you would need to encode each name individually and add them into universal polar. So it is in theory possible, but it would be quite challenging in terms of manual actions. But you could do that if you need to. And next, those encoded letters are being added into the overall OID address. And here you see we have an SNMP get binary from the net-snmp library from the GitHub. And we have some additional fail-safes, additional error handling if, for example, we don't have RPM probe enabled defined, then it will simply say that the probe was not found, as well as some other error handlings. There is additional exception for new Juniper firmware. So I've noticed that the percent loss is actually with a bit more zeros than needed in newer Juniper firmware. So we just need to do some conversion and then the percentage will be correct. Next we'll run the numbers and everything will be ready for final output. So the final result looks quite nice, and you can use those statistics for different purposes, for example reports, or to create a modern dashboard or classic dashboard. However, you need to have an application module to make it work, unfortunately. You can, as I said, convert individual OIDs and use universal polar if you need to, but it looks much better on the application module. And you can find the templates in the video description. In order to import it, you just need to go to settings, all settings. From here, some settings, manage templates, and use the import function. Next, just search for RPM and choose the one that you need. If you need to use SNMP versus free, I forgot to mention that you need to have a PowerShell module, SNMP versus free, and you can use this command line install module to install it. It needs to be installed locally on the SolarWinds in order for the template to work correctly. I hope you will find those templates useful. Thanks for watching and see you next time.